Hello everyone. Today we're going to start talking about 3.3, which is being able to prove when lines parallel. You are already aware that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent, alternate interior are congruent, alternate exterior are congruent, same side interior supplementary, and same side exterior are supplementary. You already know that. Today, we're basically doing the converse of this. So if I had my conditional statement that said if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then this happens. Well, today we're learning the converse, that if corresponding angles are congruent when two lines are cut by a transversal, then if two alternate interior angles are congruent when two lines are cut by a transversal, then, and so on, then the lines must be parallel. So we are just doing the converse of what we've already know. So make sure you have that filled in your note sheet. Here's an example of how I can ask the question as to whether or not these are parallel. So my question to you is there enough information to prove lines P and Q are parallel? If so, state the postulate or theorem that you would use. So by looking at this picture, we have to come up with what type of angle pair they are. So if you look at this, the 115 and the 115, you should be able to say that these are alternate exterior angles. And since we know that alternate exterior angles should be congruent, this proves it. So we would just need to say yes and AEA are congruent. And you could say yes because AEA are congruent. So let's take a look at our next picture. My question for you is find the value of x that makes M and N parallel. Well, if the 4x and the 120 are corresponding angles, then as long as I know if they're congruent, then M and N are parallel. So to make this congruent, I would set 4x equal to 120, I would divide by 4, and x equals 30. And that's all you would have to do for this problem. The next style problems I can do in this section is that if I tell you that 4 and 5 are congruent, you need to be able to tell me, does that prove that P is parallel to Q, or does that prove that M is parallel to N? So if we look at 4 and 5, what I like to do again is outline 4, outline 5, okay, and then I say, well, which line has both colors on it? And you should notice that M has both colors on it, blue and red. So M is the transversal. So if M is the transversal, it proves that P is parallel to Q. Okay? If I were to ask you about 9, and if I said to you which lines are parallel if 9 is congruent to 13, well, 9 and 13 are corresponding. Again, they lie on transversal N, which makes P and Q the lines. I could also ask you, for example, if I ask you if I ask you about 5 and 13, if I say what makes 5 congruent to 13, you would outline 5, you could outline 13, and you would say, wait, okay, they're both on Q, so M must be parallel to N if this is the case. So that's the style question that it's asking you. The next style question that you have on your note sheet is exactly the same thing. It's just a little more complex diagram. I'm going to give you the diagram, and I'm going to say, well, if 10 is congruent to 13, now I know that is an equal sign. It should be a congruent sign. So if you want to change that, go ahead. I think it's just, it printed really lightly. So if we go up and we look at 10 and 13, first of all, we have to make sure it's a valid statement. If it's not, we can say this is untrue. But I look, and 10 and 13, and again, if you wanted to, it was easier for you to highlight it. You could take 10, outline 10, outline 13, okay? And you could say the transversal's Q. First of all, you have to make sure there's a relationship between 10 and 13, and there is. If you see, if I picked up these four and put them on top of these four, then they would be corresponding. So 10 and 13 are corresponding. So because, as long as we're showing that they're congruent, then I can say Q is the transversal, the lines are X and Z, and the reason is because corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so my next one is 3 plus 4 is equal to 17. So if I come up here, and would you say that it's true that if 3 and 4 are congruent to 17, okay, angle 3 plus angle 4, or the measure is equal. If these are equal, then they're alternate interior angles, which means S is the transversal and X and Y are the lines. So I would say, yes, this is true, X and Y, and because AIA are congruent. Okay? Let's look at our next one, which says 2 and 6. If I go back up to my drawing, I'm going to delete my sketches. Okay. If I look at 2 and 6, two's here and 6 is here. If these lines were parallel, they would not be congruent, they would be same side interior. And so this, if they were supplementary, then R would be parallel to S. But as you can see, R and S are not parallel, and therefore I can't write anything. Sorry. So my answer is just NA. It doesn't prove it, and I don't justify it. I just say you can't do the problem. Okay? Let's look at the next one, which is that 2 plus 7 equals 180. So since I'm looking for 2 and 7 being supplementary, I'm hoping that they are same side interior. So if I look for 2 and 7, they're right here. Okay? 2 is right here. 7's right here. Well, they are same side interior. They're on transversal Y, and Q and R are the lines.
Terry DeSantis, would you please report to Priscilla Martin's
So it's
room?
Q and R,
Terry DeSantis, please report to Priscilla
and it's because
Martin's room.
SSIA are supplementary. Okay, and then if you look at the last one, I tell you that 13 and 14 equal 180. Well, when I come up here, 13 and 14 end up being a linear pair. Well, linear pair does not justify that lines are parallel. So I'm going to then say NA, NA, because linear pairs do not justify lines being parallel. So these are your givens. This is why we can prove it. So what I would like you to do is turn to this page, look at your diagram, and I want you to pause this video and do the last slide by yourself. Please pause it. Don't just copy the answers. Try it, and then come back and see your answers. I'll change the slide in a couple minutes. Pause the video. Don't cheat. really hope you paused the video and now you're coming back to check your answers. So if you look, the reason 9 would be equal, the measure of angle 9 would be equal to the measure of 13, would prove that N and P are parallel because corresponding angles are congruent. 8 and 16, if they are supplementary, then that proves K and J are parallel because SSIA are supplementary. 8 and 9, if you look, are vertical angles. Vertical angles do not prove lines parallel. And 5, the measure of angle 5 equaling the measure of angle 11, they would prove that J and K are parallel because AIA are congruent. Okay, so hopefully you would be able to answer any style of these questions, and I'll see you tomorrow. Please remember, we're going to have a test on Friday. Thank you.